final piece of the triangle, so we talked about heat, which is your visionary practice, your fuel, which is your sustaining ritual. This is like how you get the energy in, how you keep it going, keep it building. The last piece, I think, is the most underrated, and yet it is the thing that will stop you from leaking energy. Because I know plenty of people who are visionary. They are so inspired. They are so motivated, and they're pretty good with their sustaining rituals. They're really taking care of themselves. And where it all falls apart is the oxygen.
Smothered.
They're
No
smothered.
space.
And we call this personal filter. You might know this in your life as having good boundaries, but the personal filter is basically the screen between you and what you let in to your life energetically, emotionally, physically, spiritually. It is noticing when you're spending time maybe with people in your life who don't hold the same values as you, or worse, like tear them down within you. You know, if you're an entrepreneur, I'm going to speak to those of you who are really actively trying to build something that hasn't been proven out in the world yet. The worst thing for your inner morale is someone saying, well, that will never work. Are you sure you really want to do this? Didn't you try that already? Are you making any money with that yet? It is so hard to keep and hold that belief in your big vision when you have people actively, not lovingly, not like people just checking to make sure you're doing well and what do you need and how can I support you, but you have people who are like, well, that's a silly thing to do. I did have people in my life who said, you should not become a coach. I actually work with a client now who was a coaching client who, when I gave up my acupuncture practice and my yoga space, said, I don't know, being a coach sounds really risky. I don't know if you should switch into that business. And now she's my client and she eats her hat every time we work together. But at the time, had I had 100 people saying that to me, I don't know that I would have been able to hold that big vision for what we've created. That's been really successful. So how are you, and this isn't just about people. This can also be like, are you scrolling social media that makes you feel terrible instead of putting in time like watching a class here? You know, I hear there's a lot of content inside Club PF for you. Something that would build you up, that would sustain you, that would help you focus on your vision. Are you giving away your attention and your energy to things that drain you? You might need to build up that filter.
And so I think that would be the first place to start when considering how do you build the filter, is asking, where do you feel smothered? Where do you feel like you don't have a choice and that it's not supportive to you? With a lot of people, it's in relationships. Maybe there's someone that, or even a group that you feel beholden to, like you just have to say yes to the invites, or you have to let them over whenever they knock, or whatever it is. A lot of people feel stuck with relationships. And so this is an invitation to, first of all, just identify that, right? The starting point for all of this when you create your tending triad is where are you starting? It's awareness. And so if you know there's a certain person that just does not respect your boundaries, or you just feel afraid to even mention what you would like, you're not willing to make requests, much less actually follow through on any consequences to someone stepping over those lines, that's a good place to start. You can't make a change if you don't know what's the problem. And a lot of people just feel that sense of being stuck, feel that sense of resentment, feel that sense of annoyance. Like, God, I hope they don't, whatever, call me, look at me, barge in, anything. But they will, right?
Text me. I hope they don't text me.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Slack me.
And so starting from that place, like, okay, this is a presence that needs to be filtered out. We're not saying you have to cut off any relationships, but sometimes relationships should end, right? Sometimes they don't actually feed your vision. They don't give you the oxygen that your heart and soul need.
And sometimes it's not about cutting the relationship off. It's more about defining what borders and boundaries you're willing to accept. It might be having a conversation that's a little uncomfortable in order to say, I'm not coming over every Sunday for dinner because it doesn't fit in with what I need on Monday. We just talk, we just gossip. We just doesn't feel good anymore. We need to do something different. So hard conversations, sometimes it's definitely oxygen, and the personal filter can be the trickiest one. Definitely get support for yourself if it is kind of a relationship-based filter that you maybe need to build. And if it's not, sometimes it's the way you talk to yourself.
Totally. A personal filter can be your own self-talk.
I hear people say a lot of very mean things to themselves.
We make our kids do 10 push-ups when they say bad things about themselves. I'm so stupid. 10 push-ups.
10 push-ups. 10 push-ups. We need to reframe that.
Like, don't talk that way about my son.
Yes.
Love that guy. Don't say bad things about him.
Notice this for yourself. If you would never tolerate the way you talk to yourself, if someone said the same thing about your best friend and you would want to smack them, don't talk to yourself that way. That's a really important one. And how does this all relate to goals? So this is how we keep our inner flame tended. When you have more of a conversation and a relationship with that visionary practice, and you're taking care of your energy in these other ways, that is putting one step in front of the other and actually actively working towards that next lantern. And you're doing so within the context of being a person who is well-rested, who is thoughtful and caring, who has the relationships and the support and the structures in their life to make that hike up the mountain to that next place.